the U.S. taxpayer is out there to pay for all the problems in the world. And at some point, the U.S. taxpayer is not going to stand for it anymore.
I am Stacking Stormtrooper with Empire Precious Metals. If you're new to the channel, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a guy in a bucket talking about precious metals and collectibles. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, get the bell notification click. That way you get updated with any new content. I am very excited to have another expert with me today. We are speaking with President and CEO Max Porterfield of Calanex Mines. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here today.
Man, oh man. So it's been a long day already, and I'm just excited to have you on here, especially some of the topics that we're going to be covering. And I don't want to waste too much time, so I'm actually going to just dive right in and just start throwing questions your way. And to start, before we actually start talking about Calanex, I like to kind of discuss a little bit of economics and what have you beforehand. And I've been looking at some different reports and some statistics on the global economy, and things are really, really crazy. For example, as of 2020 and 2021, there have been some global policy stimuli that basically put into place $17 trillion in fiscal money, $13 trillion in monetary, so $30 trillion total. We've got central banks. They purchased $1 billion of financial assets every hour since February of 2020. Some estimates are showing that U.S. taxpayer debt is going to be around $78,000 in 2025. Cryptocurrency is just really all over the place. So these figures are staggering. What are historically the implications of easy money policies on the economy?
I think no one's seen easy money policies on the scale that we're seeing right now today with this response. And I think government policy in the United States shifting really since the 1970s when they removed themselves off the gold standard to a fiat currency where they have no really respect for the currency. And the concept of debt just means that, as if there's no issues regarding that, which, I think it's going to be leading to inflation. And we're seeing that across the board right now. The US dollar is obviously going to get weaker and weaker the more and more they print. And I think that's why you see, a lot of people liking cryptos with the idea.
Yeah.
A lot of people, investing in cryptos right now, like the Dogecoin, while it's interesting and all, when they think they're investing in the mindset that there's a control, but on that type of currency, there's no control on the supply there either. So I think it's going to be very, very inflationary. I think it's going to be a great place to be. Is going to be in hard assets, and those historically will perform well in a hyperinflation scenario, which I think we're certainly looking to be entering right now. If you're not seeing across the board, commodity prices have had a dramatic move higher.
Yeah. Now, with Biden's victory and Democrats also winning the House and the Senate, how do you see this shaping up the next 4 years for markets?
In terms of overall markets, I think that the move in the markets didn't seem sustainable, and you've seen that correction kind of happening overall. In terms of the commodities space, I think it's going to be a very amazing time to be in commodities overall in general and real assets. You've seen the boom in housing because of that, the inflation in a lot of the lumber prices, copper prices are at all-time high. So again, I think we're going to be in an inflationary environment, and real assets are really where you'd want to be.
Yeah, and on top of that too, we are seeing multiple stimulus checks. There's more taxation on the wealthy. We see the giant infrastructure program that's being put into place. Can we expect ballooning deficits?
Yeah, I think every time I turn around, there's another $1 trillion being spent by the Biden administration.
Yeah.
With no rhyme or no real reason. The infrastructure plan that they put in place, I was quite excited to hear about infrastructure spending because I think that's going to be a big, big driver for long-term job growth. Can be done through infrastructure spending. Happened in the U.S. in the 1950s, and you can saw it again occur in China with their infrastructure plans that they did through the 90s and up until present. But with that being said, you look at the infrastructure spend they put in place. There wasn't a lot of infrastructure there. And they're just going to continue to do that. Recently Biden says he's going to rebuild the Gaza, but it's,
right.
some reason, the U.S. taxpayer is out there to pay for all the problems in the world. And at some point, the U.S. taxpayer is not going to stand for it anymore. And in terms of debt, when you say federal debt, I don't know how many trillion is right at this moment. You mentioned it earlier.
I think
That's
it's like
just
around like 29 or 30, something like that. It's like
right.
everybody loses count.
That's just federal. That's just federal debt. What about the municipal debt? I mean,
Right.
you've seen the exodus out of these more liberal run, I think, states, New York and California in particular,
Mm-hmm.
and that's for very real reasons. I was recently in Nevada visiting a family member, a cousin of mine, and we were out for a walk in his neighborhood, and we got stopped by three different neighbors. They're very friendly out there, and they're all Californians. They're all moving and recently bought homes in
Yeah.
this new development, new neighborhood, specifically because of what they're seeing going on, and that's because there's more debt just on the state and the local levels that no one's ever talking about.
Right.
So we talk on federal debt, but it trickles down everywhere else, and that's why you're seeing a lot of population growth in states like Texas, Florida, Washington State, Nevada, because there's no state income taxes, and they run their states a bit differently there.
Right. Right. And you had mentioned China a moment ago. And we are seeing them they're recovering very quickly from this nightmare, and they're actually in a full-blown race to secure resources that they need for their EV revolution. And we know that Biden, he wants to electrify the federal fleet. I mean, do politicians really even have any idea as to how difficult it is to find zinc and copper and other silver, the stuff that they're desperately going to need for these huge infrastructure projects?
Absolutely not. I mean, government policy is a precursor for change, but politicians don't necessarily always have the expertise, the wherewithal. You can be the judge in terms of what drives their decision-making process. But I think the biggest is foresight in terms of what are the impacts of the policies that they're making.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is that mine supply is very hard to find. The exploration business is a very, very challenging business. And if you just go look at in terms of discoveries being made, they're becoming more and more frequent, more and more less frequently. They don't happen very often. So particularly in the base metal space, because you've had a really kind of a lull of investment. But even when you had big money dropped in exploration in the copper space, for example, it didn't lead to any big discoveries. And so it's a supply side issue, because if you have a big shift in demand when supply was already very, very constrained. You look at copper inventories, very, very constrained right now, and they have been. But when you're kind of like throwing kerosene or gasoline on the fire,
Mm-hmm.
without taking into account in terms of what kind of milestones you're trying to meet and how you're going to meet those milestones with what supply.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they need experts like you on the panels advising them as
So
to...
they need to talk to someone in the business to
I
understand
know.
the challenge. From a discovery hole to production in the copper space, on average, it's 7 years.
See, it's a long time. And
So,
then,
right. And the only thing that can make that go faster is obviously higher prices, but higher prices also slow down the economy.
right.
Right. So there's a fine line you have to walk, because new mine supply has to come online,
Right.
but that's just not as simple as everyone hopes it to be.
Right.
And
Yeah.
discoveries are being made very, very not as frequent as before. The easy discoveries have been found, and people are having to go to more and more remote places in many instances to do that, which in turn leads to big upfront capital costs. And in terms of this mindset that you're going to get clean copper,
Mm-hmm.
well, truly the cleanest copper is going to be a clean power source, is power generated to mine that operation, and the higher grade. But again, when you think about the infrastructure dollars, billions of dollars in some of these remote projects that need to go into place,
Right.
how clean really is it on the grander scheme? But either way, there has to be the supply to meet the demand.
Right. Now, let me ask you, now speaking about the whole supply and demand thing, actually, this leads me perfectly into this next question I had for you. I'm sure that you've been following all the news and everything about the silver squeeze, and YouTubers such as myself and others, we made some videos discussing the whole silver squeeze. You got Wall Street Silver getting in on the mix, and I'm just kind of curious as to your thoughts on that entire issue.
In terms of
So let me clarify. there have been a lot of people on Reddit sub forums basically saying how they would like to increase the price of silver by buying up as much silver as they possibly can. A lot of people thought that it would push the prices of silver up to $50 an ounce somewhere. Even people have been saying $100 an ounce like overnight, which we really did not see. They actually called for these, different dates of like a united effort between all of these people to just go out and buy silver to try to jack the prices up. And
Yeah, I mean, I think that as that goes, I mean, with the GameStop is what really kind of drove that. And a
right.
lot of these people that were up there, a lot of people getting crushed, right? So the notion that everybody makes money on a trade, you make money on a trade when you exit a trade, right? Just because it goes up, it doesn't mean you exit and you monetize that. So I think a lot of people that are participating in these hotter trades that are more media driven that you see, the ultimate, how much money do they make on their investments? It's kind of like you need to be early in that party,
Yeah.
and you have the conviction to sell at some point. And I think in terms of the silver market's a bit bigger, but GameStop in particular had a big short interest in that, which is really when you can have a squeeze on that. I don't know that that's really the case in the silver markets, and it certainly hasn't worked out in terms of the amount of capital you might need. I don't know if they have that kind of capital.
Exactly, to even make like really such a dent. And that's what I was saying in one of my videos. They were saying that they needed around 100,000 people to purchase 100 ounces all at the same time. And if you look at the average American, I think it's something like less than 30% or 20% even have like $1,000 of savings in their bank account. So I tend to agree with you there. I don't think that there was enough capital for just like the regular everyday person to go and really kind of push the needle. I do want to talk to you about Calanex Mines, the company that you are running. Can you elaborate how your company aims to create value for your shareholders?
Yeah, sure. So we're an exploration company. There's three stages in the mining business. You have exploration, development, and production. And real value creation in the business, where you have the biggest kind of upside to create wealth for your shareholders is in the exploration side. And that's when we go out and, we look to make a discovery and delineate a large mineral resource that'll eventually go into production.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the shareholders stand to benefit when you create value by discovering a very valuable deposit, because they are very, very hard to find. And actually, right now, we're in the midst of drilling out a discovery, the Rainbow deposit in Manitoba, which is very unique in that it's in close proximity to existing infrastructure. So again, that opportunity to utilize existing infrastructure reduces your upfront capital costs.
Okay.
You're, kind of from an ESG perspective, it's much cleaner to use existing infrastructure that's in place than to try to build it all new. And it's also in close proximity to a hydroelectric power line, so it's very, very clean. So we're hitting high-grade copper, gold, silver, and zinc, really high-grade copper at the Rainbow discovery. And again, within close proximity to that infrastructure that's in need of a new discovery, with that mine in the town due to shut down next year. And that's going to be really, I think, the focal point for the company in 2021 is drilling out the Rainbow discovery.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a very big drilling campaign. We're drilling 2 drills are active right now and have been so since February. And then also we have 2 near surface silver discoveries in New Brunswick, adjacent to a zinc lead deposit that we've already published a preliminary economic study on it in 2018 that showed robust economics at zinc prices below where they are today.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have a resource that we're looking to update in Newfoundland that's a zinc, gold, copper deposit there with some targets there. So again, we drive value through discovery within these Canadian jurisdictions and proximity to infrastructure.
So you got a lot of projects upcoming in 2021. Those Rainbow deposits, or as you call them, those projects, they seem like those are going to be really, really exciting opportunities for Calanex. And also talking about the structure of your company, because I always find this to be a major selling point. I would just like for you to just talk to us a little bit about how much of the company is owned by insiders and family and associates, institutions, and so on.
Yeah, so a big insider ownership of the company. About 25% is management and close associates that are part of the company. For example, myself and my family are very substantial shareholders of the company, roughly 15% of the shares outstanding. And then we have a very supportive shareholder base from institutions. I mean, we recently completed a $8.88 million capital raise in February, specifically focused to expanding the Rainbow discovery. And that was made up from a lot of well-known institutional shareholders. Notably, Resource Capital Fund's been a long-standing shareholder of the company going back to 2015. They're a big private equity fund. Mm-hmm. And, Delbrook has been a very nice shareholder, and they participate in the recent financing. So they're investors and family offices, institutional investors and family offices that understand the mining business and what we're up against in terms of exploration and what we're looking to achieve. And so again, to that end, it's a tight capital structure as well. We have just 13.1 million shares outstanding. So it's very, very tightly held, which is, I think, going to stand to benefit us in this, up market for the base and precious metal space as we expand the discoveries.
So as we actually start bringing our conversation to a close, I do want to ask you one more thing. What would be defined as a successful year for Calanex?
The successful year is going to be growing the high-grade Rainbow deposit, and the bigger it grows, the more successful we'll become, as well as expanding the near-surface silver discoveries in New Brunswick. So again, we're going to be very active with the drill bit this year. Again, we're here to drive shareholder value through discovery, and we're very excited to be a part of 2 discoveries, not just 1, but 2, in proximity infrastructure in Canada at a time where, you're in an inflationary environment and it's really a supply-side problem. Mm-hmm. These key metals that we're happening to be fortunate enough to discover right now, namely copper.
It's awesome. I'm excited for you guys. What I'm going to do is I will place all information about Calanex Mines down below. Max Porterfield, President and CEO of Calanex Mines, I really do appreciate your time today. And before I send you off, who's your favorite Star Wars character?
Darth Vader.
All right, I'll go with that. You like my boss. Okay, I'll take it. It was a pleasure. I look forward to speaking with you again, and we'll talk again real soon.
Thanks so much for having me.
And I would like to quickly thank these elite channel supporters. And if you haven't already become a channel member, please check out the awesome perks and join today. With that, this is Empire Precious Metals. Until next time, long live the Empire.